I don't know who exactly I'm speaking to in regards to this video, but God has been putting this phrase very heavily on my heart recently in regards to the phrase do not idolize. Do not idolize. Like, no matter what I'm doing, I just keep hearing that phrase repeatedly in my brain, do not idolize. And I believe I know what it's in regards to because for a while when it came to the God ordained spouse journey, I was doing that same thing. I was idolizing the whole journey. And so that's why I'm making this video, because I feel like so many of you guys who are on this journey are doing that without realizing you're doing it. And what I mean by that is that a lot of you guys in the past, I would say 2 weeks, have constantly asked me the same questions. And there's no problem with that. I love hearing your guys' testimonies. I love hearing, what the Lord is doing for you in your life and hearing, the different things that God is showing you, this, that, and the other. But I have been constantly telling you guys the exact same thing. Whoever has been DMing me, like, I've been telling you the exact same things, and it's so true, which is that if God has already revealed to you, like, bunch of times that that person is your person, and you're still asking, is this confirmation about this, or asking, is this a sign from God? If God already let you know the first time, that should be good enough. That should be enough. And I know it gets complicated sometimes because you wonder, like, if it's taking so long, am I just being crazy? What is it, And that's understandable. That's okay. And it's okay to ask God for signs, but what you have to take into account is, are you idolizing that promise? Are you idolizing the promise that God has for you in regards to that marriage promise, or in regards to not even just the God ordained spouse journey, but in regards to the finances God promised you, in regards to that career God promised you, in regards to the children God was going to bless you with, like all this type of stuff, right? And, for a while there, when I first was on this journey, I kind of got into that mindset where I was idolizing the idea of marriage, and idolizing the idea of being married, and idolizing the idea of having a husband in general. And I got into the mindset originally when I first got on this journey that I had to have my person in order to fulfill the promises that God had for my life. And that's something that it took me a while to learn, that I had to be my own person before God decides to bring me, my God ordained spouse. It hasn't happened yet, but point of the matter is that, I have to grow in my own individuality before I go into a relationship that God has destined for me, right? Because despite the fact that I want that, you have to take into account that, are you idolizing that promise? And what I mean by that is, who has your heart more? Who has your heart more? Is it God has your heart 99% and you are having this 1% be about your guardian spouse, or about your job, or your finances, or about your children? What is that 1% that, you're idolizing still and not giving to God fully? Because your heart posture fully should be at 100% God. And for a lot of you guys are not in the mindset of just having it where, despite a lot of you guys having it where eventually your ordained spouse will return and will come back, what you have to take into account is, are you having it where you're in the mindset now of, or not maybe even now, but eventually, getting to that point where you get in the mindset of, are you even okay with just having God and him never giving your guardian spouse back? You get what I'm throwing down? Like, are you okay with just having God in your life and having all these promises that God promised you not be fulfilled? Would you be okay with just having God? Would you be happy enough with just having God? Would you be loved enough with just having God? Would you be pleased enough with just having God? Would you be able to go about your life just having God, even if none of those things that God had already promised you came to pass? And if you're not in that mindset, your heart posture is not right, number one. And number two, you think God's going to bring you your person back when you are not fully committed to just being okay with God? Because that should be your main priority. God has to be your main priority, and you have to have a good relationship with him. And I know a lot of you guys have said the exact same thing, because I kind of was in that mindset for a while where, I have grown so much in my faith journey compared to where I was last October, right? And I would have thought by now I would be ready, but obviously I'm not. That's why God has not brought me my person back, because I have not been fully in the position of my heart to be in that position where I am just fully okay with God. And I feel like that's for so many of you guys as well, who are doing it unintentionally. And, I get it. You may not even realize you're doing it unintentionally, but this is a reminder to ask yourselves, am I allowing God to fully take every ounce of my heart? Am I allowing God to fully take every single ounce of my heart? Or am I just allowing him, for this portion and this portion because I know he's promising me this? Or think about that. You truthfully need to think about that. And I don't know who needs to hear that today. And God wants to let you know, I don't know why he's just putting it in my heart right now, but he wants to let you know that he's not mad at you, but he's not very happy with the fact that you're allowing all these other things to take over your heart versus just being okay with him. And it makes him sad when you are not okay with just him, because he wants to give you every desire of your heart. He knows every single desire. You do not think he sees all your tears. You don't think he sees the times where you'll get signs and you'll be like, God, is this from you? He knows that he sent that particular sign to you. He knows it. Why are you questioning it? Okay, is the thing. And that's the other thing too, is that you have to take into account, when it comes to the things that God has promised you, God understands that you want that particular person. He knows in the depths of his God-given heart, okay, that you want the particular person. He knows that in the deep depths of your heart that person, you want to spend the rest of your life with, you want to have a family with, you want to grow old together and die together like The Notebook or something, but you get the point, okay? He knows that. He understands that. You don't think he sees that? He wants to do that for you. But what you have to take into account is you have to be your own individual person before he would bring you that relationship or that career or the finances or the job, whatever it may be. You have to take into account, are you okay with just having God? And another thing too that a lot of you guys need to be doing right now is, God has already shown you sign after sign after sign after sign, right? He's shown you multiple signs telling you that that person is your person, or whatever you've been promised, he's showing you signs that that thing is for you. He has shown you that already. All he wants you to do right now is to surrender to him and grow fully in your relationship with him. And I know that's hard sometimes, because in regards to the whole God ordained spouse journey, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been there before. Well, you'll try so hard to not think about that person. And it's no matter what you do, you can't unthink about them. You think about them in the back of your head. You know what I'm talking about? When you go to bed, you sleep, you dream about them, and then you wake up and they're just there. They're just there in your mind. I get it, because I've gone that way so many times, and I still have occasionally where I get in that mindset. No doubt, it makes us human, and it's not fun. I get it, but the way you get away from thinking about that person constantly is by getting directly into the Word constantly. That is how you're able to put those thoughts about the promise away, so you're not idolizing the promise. And the more you get into the Bible and the more you talk to your Father and spend time in prayer and spend time bettering yourself, that is when God will do everything that he wants to do for you, and all the things that you want him to do for you, all those things will come to pass once you fully submit to God. And once you're fully have grown in your relationship with God alone, and you've grown into becoming your own person, that is when God will bring you everything else that you are desiring in your heart. So I don't know who needs to hear that today, but I want you guys, after you get done watching this video, take 10 minutes to just truthfully ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, am I idolizing the marriage promise that God has for me? Am I idolizing that job promise God has for me, the finances, the home that God has for me, the children that God has for me? Am I idolizing this promise that God has for me, right? Number 2 is, I want you guys to ask yourself, have I truthfully fully surrendered and trusted in God that God is going to do it? Because I know in my heart that God can do anything. He's God. He can do anything. Ask yourself that. Have I truthfully surrendered to God and let God do God? Whether or not it hurts that person or whether or not it hurts someone, have I let God do God's work for my situation to work out in the end of it all, And number 3, I want you guys to ask yourselves, would I be okay if it was only just God and those promises were never fulfilled? Would I be truthfully okay with just having God? And that's what I want you guys to ask yourselves. So I don't know who needed to hear this video, but I hoped it helped someone out there today, and I really want you guys to think about that today, okay? Love you.